Hey, Jantans and Jantanites, it's Jason Desmond from the Jantan Collective, and welcome to another edition of What's Up With That, where we question, we learn, and we grow. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below because we love hearing from you. Maybe there's something that you have a comment about from previous shows, or if there's something that you want us to talk about, get in touch. We want to hear from you. Now, according to the Malaysian Crime Prevention Foundation, or MCPF, the total losses recorded in regards to cyber crime for 2019 and 2020 were 305 million ringgit and 247 million ringgit, respectively. That's a lot of money. It could be my money, it could be your money, it could be the government's money. Basically, someone's losing money through cyber crime. What's up with that? And to help us make sense of all these facts and figure staggering numbers about how much it's costing all of us, the consumers, the people, the rakyat, is cybersecurity advocate and a good friend of ours, Aaron Mokhtar. Aaron, how are you?
What's up, JD and the Jantan Collective?
It seems like every time there's a hack, we're like, hey, we got to call Aaron. Okay, we need to find out what the hell is going on, man.
Well, I mean, as long as it's for some to talk about it and not blame me for it, I'm fine.
So actually, dude, because recently, we're going to get a bit into this a bit later on. We're going to talk a bit about the WhatsApp thing. But the reason why we called you was actually about the WhatsApp thing. Then Anonymous Malaysia came up and said they're going to hack this, hack that. I'm like, dude, something's going on here. What in the world's happening? So let's talk about cyber safety and the safety of our data. How important is cyber safety nowadays?
How much time do we have?
Dude, this ain't my radio show, man. Take your time, dude.
Okay, well, first, let's be clear of like certain definitions, right? So for instance, when you talk about hacking, the Hollywood version of hacking is what we associate with somebody trying to steal your information, somebody trying to break into your system. But actually, hacking means just using something differently. The proper technical term for these type of activities is actually cracking.
Right.
So C-R-A-C-K. Hacking could be something like using a water bottle to make a shower head or something, right?
Right. Okay.
But Hollywood's made hacking
hacks.
the word. Life hacks. Secondly is sometimes there is a very distinctive difference between like cybersecurity and cyber safety, right? So if I ask you like, what's the difference between security and safety, JD, what would you say?
Well, I suppose security is keeping things secure and keeping our information in a locked box. But safety is like, man, you take my stuff, my life and my family's in danger and stuff like this. In my mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're right there. So just to clarify that, it's like I wouldn't say I keep myself I wouldn't keep my child safe. I wouldn't keep my child secure. I would keep them safe.
Yes.
Right. So usually what safe means is very internal or inwards, right? So when I talk about I have to keep my house safe, that means no sharp objects around the house, no electrical wiring sticking out of the wall, stuff like that. So safe is very internal, it's very on me, right? Secure is when I'm worried about the outside world, I'm worried about outside threats. So when I talk about security, it's like I'm going to secure my house. So I'm going to have the grills, I'm going to have the locks, so on and so forth. When you talk about cyber safety, usually you're talking about like education, outreach, awareness. And when you talk about security, is more on, okay, how do I keep myself technically safe? Like, securing my network, securing my system.
Right.
So what we see going on nowadays, like, I mean, the internet is a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my kid can ask me a question and I'll just tell them, give me a second. I have a sore tummy, gotta go to the toilet, and then quickly Google what they want to know, and then come out like a genius. Like, this is the answer to your question. Oh, you're so smart,
right.
So that's the beauty of the internet, where at the tip of your finger, information is there, right? But at the same time, the speed of the internet is one of its biggest problems because there's no filter, there's no way to double check the information that you're getting, right? So kids, you talk about the internet as an amplifier is because cyberbullying is already bad.
Yeah.
But when it's cyberbullying, it's almost like 1,000 times worse because it escalates very quickly, right? Parents are not aware because everything's on a screen.
Yeah.
So it's a love-hate relationship that I have because there is a lot of benefit to it. But the problem is people do not see it as something real. They see it as something, it's out there. It's like watching the Matrix. It doesn't really affect me in real life.
And it will only happen to someone else, not me, right?
It always happens to somebody else but yourself.
Until you start reading all these scams online, and I'm like, how the hell, what the fuck happened there? These people gave out their PIN code and they gave out their one-time password. Like, why? How?
It again. I mean, when you talk about cyber criminals, right? Let's be clear. When they're a lazy bunch, because criminals in general are lazy. But again, don't mistake lazy with not being smart. Right? What I mean by lazy is they're always looking for shortcuts. And in a way, that's what hackers are, right? They're always looking for a shortcut.
Yeah.
So what happens is hackers, they don't just hack your system, they hack your mind. They know how you will react to certain things, right? I watched a video once of this guy. He was kind of like Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy.
Right.
And he was talking about how, like, in the old days where everything was on the phone, and he would say that after 30 seconds talking to somebody, he would get a feel of that person's personality type. Right? So if he knew that this person was an alpha, how he would sell the product would be like, I know you're the type of guy who knows how to get things done. Right? Yeah. I know you know what's
fire. Right.
Yeah, I know you know what's best for you. See? If he finds out that the person is more of a nurturer personality, then it's like, this product is going to help the people around you. This product is going to help your family. Don't you care about how your family is going to feel about this? See? And if you're the submissive type, there was one video where it's almost like a Keen and Peele video where the guy was like, you know what? I don't want to sell you this product. And the guy said, wait a minute. What do you mean? That actually there's a skip by Keen and Peele, but that actually did happen. Yeah. Right? And at the end, the guy's actually begging the guy to sell him the product. So there are people who are just, really good at that. And now you have the internet where I can do it to like hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people all at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the problem where people are going on the internet thinking, you know what? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. But the thing is, so what do we do? Get antivirus or some, does that keep us safe?
Well, I mean, that's one part of it, right? I always tell people that the weakest link in any security chain is the human factor, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to click that button on the computer.
Right.
At this point in time, maybe in the future is going to change, right? But at this point in time, I have to say, yes, I want to save this file. Yes, I want to open this message. Yes, I want to open this email. I have control over that part of it, right? Now, once I click it, then it becomes a different story, right? Now the technology side kicks into it. So the human side is always that gateway.
Yeah.
How do I get somebody to open up an email? Is it going to be like, danger, your bank account has been blacklisted. Reply to this email now,
Yeah.
And you might say, man, I never fall for that. But then when that message comes 2 days before Hari Raya or Chinese New Year or Deepavali or Christmas, then suddenly,
Yeah.
See? Now I'm thinking like, oh man, it's most likely not true, but if it is true, I'm not going to have money for the holidays. I'm going to be in trouble.
Correct. See? Actually, on that, I was talking to someone. He was a journalist, right? He was saying, we were talking about, there was recently another Macau scam. So I was like, why do people go through this? So his reasoning is because he spoke to the cops about it. It's like, people, number one, generally don't pay. They try to run away from paying taxes, try to run away from this, try to run away from that. So when a call comes from a legit number, which is probably all bullshit, and it's all probably from a scammer, right? They call up, you freak out because you also did something wrong. Because like, hey, actually, I also ran away from tax paying and everything. So when LSDA calls, I'm going to panic and everything, right? So it's playing with the human factor, the weak mind, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had somebody wants to give me an advice where be good or be smart.
All right? Yeah.
Be good or be smart. Because if you're going to be a bad person or get caught doing stuff, you better be really good at not getting caught. And like you say, one of it is that, like, if you have a skeleton in your closet, this is something that might bite you in the end. Because somebody that we might actually know from a local radio station on the production side actually called me up and said, dude, somebody sent this email to my wife. And I was like, I read it, right? And he was like, the email basically said that there's a malware on your computer. I got pictures of you doing naughty stuff on it. And if you don't pay, I'm going to release it. And he was like, but Aaron, I don't think this is true because my wife is a good Catholic girl. So I'm like, okay. One thing was I told him, look at the email. Not at any point do they actually mention your wife's name, right? So that's always a first hint. If an email comes out to you and it's very generic, like excuse me, sir, or madam. It never uses your real name,
Yeah.
or it doesn't have any actual information in the middle of the email, then it's one of those things where you can safely assume that it was probably sent out to like millions of people in hope of catching at least 0.1%.
Yeah, but dude, sometimes the calls that come in though. I mean, like they got my information from somewhere. They know my full name, my IC number, my whatever, right? How the hell did they get that?
Okay, there's two parts to that question. The first part is, it's all acting, right? I mean, I got a call that said I was involved in a hit and run in Kelantan.
That's
right?
Why is it always Kelantan? I always wonder.
I think because like if you're in KL, right, you're not gonna go all the way to Kelantan to verify something.
Yeah.
Right. So that could be a reason why it's like, Kelantan is too long. Like even for me, I can drive up to Kelantan like twice a year. That's it. That's my quota.
Yeah.
More than that, and it's crazy.
You're done. Yeah.
I'm done, man. I'm done. So what it is that number one is that they're trying to get you with information, and sometimes you're like, did I not? And if you have that hesitancy, that's where they get you, right? And sometimes it's enough for them to say, if you don't believe me, call this police department number, right?
Yes. Yeah, they
in
always
actual
do that.
fact, you're just calling the person right next to them, for instance. So that's one part of it. That's the problem where in terms of the messages that come in. Now, in terms of the information and where they get it, I mean, how many times have you gone to like Tesco or Ion and somebody comes up and say, oh, sign up for this card or that card. And you never read the fine print at the bottom that says, oh, by signing this, you actually agree that we can share this information with marketers and advertisers. And not everybody's on the level, or if they are on the level, they could have been hacked. And basically that's what happens, right? Because criminals now, they know that big data is a thing now, right? So why bother wasting time hacking one person when they can hack an organization and get a database of millions of users?
Yeah.
Right? So I always tell people that sometimes when they complain and say, oh, Aaron, I think my Gmail got hacked. And I said, well, most likely it wasn't Gmail that got hacked, because if Gmail got hacked, it'd be on the news, because that's a big deal. What probably happened was you were using the same email for your Gmail as you did for the sitinohaliza.com fan page, right? And when that fan page that's probably managed by an individual person with no security background and hosting it on his home got hacked, that's where your information leaked.
You mentioned earlier, like hacking is like life hacks and everything. So now it's officially cracking. And I remember back in the day when we were watching like Hackers back in the 90s with Angelina Jolie, the movie.
Oh, dude, I love that movie.
Remember, I love that movie, but everything's so bold, right? And then there was what else was there? I think there was
Swordfish, the one with John Travolta.
And also exactly, and also Hugh Jackman. What about the one with Keanu as well? I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, was it? Oh man, yeah, he was like a courier.
Correct. Yes.
He had the data in his head or something like
Johnny
that.
Mnemonic or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That was
so
it.
There's so many different kinds of ways or cyber crime, right? So there's, I don't know all these terms, freaking and cracking and everything, right? How many kinds are there?
Okay. In case I get off track, remind me of that question again. But because you mentioned all the Hollywood movies, please don't think that Hollywood movies is how hacking is done.
Yeah.
Right? It's not some guy who has like 5 screens in front of him with a crate of Red Bull sitting there, doesn't have a girlfriend trying to hack you. Right?
Yeah.
It could be your next door neighbor who just Googled Wi-Fi hacking software, right? Downloaded it, and it's all just click a button and it's scripted and it does all the hacking for him.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, right? Don't always think that, oh, I'm never gonna get hacked because the hackers are anonymous. They're these guys who are gonna target the big corporations. But again, it could just be your next door neighbor, Machi, who wants free Wi-Fi because she doesn't have a budget for her own, and just Googles like how to hack Wi-Fi. That's one thing. Secondly, back to your question, which was
how many kinds of cyber crimes are there? Freaking, hacking, cracking, and which ones are actually like dangerous?
I would say, if you look at Cybersecurity Malaysia, in their MyCert monthly report, they break it down, I think, into, is it 8 or 10 categories, right?
Oh, and shit, serious? Oh my God.
So you have you have fraud. Fraud is number one.
Okay.
right? Fraud is like way ahead of everybody.
Mm.
Fraud is like, I think, was it 80 or 70% of all cases?
And when you say
Is
that, it's like the scammers, right?
So fraud is like, I'm hacking the person,
Right,
right?
right.
I'm trying to con somebody into revealing information
Mm.
willingly or giving their money willingly. So
Right.
fraud.
Mm.
Then you have like intrusion, right?
Mm.
Intrusion is where like you're trying to hack into a system,
Right.
right? Then you have people who are just collecting data. You have financial scams, credit card scams. So they basically break it up into um, what the end result is or what the target is. But in general, I would say information or cybercrime, the ones that really affect people on a daily basis. One is privacy,
Mm.
right? So whether it's a malware that activates your webcam without you knowing it, and as you're changing your clothes in your room, the webcam is recording everything,
Does that
right?
really happen? Really? Can they
Yes,
control?
a girl in the America, I would say probably when I was in cybersecurity Malaysia, it was like a year or two before that. So probably like 2008, 2007 maybe.
Mm.
Um, she committed suicide because that's what happened. She had a laptop open in her room, right? She went into the shower, came out, but because the laptop was open, there was a malware that activated her webcam.
Mm.
So as she's changing in front of her laptop, it was all recorded. Went to school the next day, and the video was shared by everybody. She couldn't
Right.
take it. Went back home and committed suicide.
So they can. Is that why if you buy laptops nowadays, you can actually cover the camera and everything?
Okay. When I was at Cybersecurity Malaysia, right?
Mm.
All the good hackers, right? The white hats.
The white hats, yeah.
Yeah. And even the janitor would have a piece of tape or post it on the webcam of
Right.
their laptop, right? Because again, we always tell people that your system might be secure right now at this moment, right? But a minute from now, an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, there could be a new type of attack that nobody's prepared for. You know, I always tell people that you shouldn't be afraid of the threats that you know about. You should be more afraid of the threats that you haven't discovered yet.
It's like the COVID of the internet.
And that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, two examples is there was one where it was like a love letter virus, if I'm not mistaken, and Kaspersky, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the virus companies actually said that what happened. Okay, this virus, what it did was it would activate the mic on your laptop or digital device,
Right.
right? So I mean, all laptops have a mic,
Yeah.
and so you could be in a meeting having a private discussion, and all the conversation is being recorded.
Right.
And what the security experts said that what worries us is we don't know how long this has been in the wild.
That means it's been happening ever since.
So
Maybe.
it could have been, it could have been recording people's information for the last few years.
Correct.
But they've only just detected it now. See?
Yeah.
So that's the scary part of how the things that we don't know about. Secondly is things escalate so quickly because, for instance, I don't know if you heard about the virus that affected the Iranian nuclear power plant, messed with the temperature controls, and set the Iranian nuclear program a few years. So supposedly, Iran said that the virus was from Israel. And the reason they said that because in the code, some of the language used was Hebrew words.
Oh, right.
Right. Of course, I find it a bit too convenient that, Israel would have Hebrew words in their code just to make sure that people knew it was them.
Yeah.
But
It's
again,
us.
But again, some coders do have kind of like, they sneak in their kind of flavor. Like how a chef would have a certain style.
Yeah.
From what I understand, people who code, they could code that. Two people could code the exact same thing, but when you look at the code is actually different because they have a different style, and people can actually, the experts say that you can even see a person's personality based on how they code, right?
Right. I see. Okay, so the result could be exactly the same, but how you get to it.
Yeah, that's why from what my friends who are like web designers, they hate it when they have to get somebody else's website, right? Because now they have to kind of figure out how this guy was trying to code his website. But going back to the Iran thingy, so what happened was that virus, I think it was called the Stuxnet, the Stuxnet virus. Now, what's scary is not that this virus took advantage of a few zero-day vulnerabilities, right? And what zero-day vulnerabilities is, and again, JD, if I ever get too technical, just So zero-day vulnerability is where the person who creates the app doesn't know that there's a vulnerability.
Okay.
right? So that means like if I'm Microsoft, I create Windows, I release it, and a hacker takes advantage of a loophole or a fault or a defect that I don't even know about.
Right.
So that's called a zero-day vulnerability. It's not an exploit that people know about, but it's an exploit that even the person who created it doesn't know exists.
But that's why white hats hack systems, right? So they can tell a company or tell a person that, look, there's a backdoor to your system.
Yeah. It that's kind of, I would say that that's a gray. Anybody who does that is almost like a gray hat because you're still illegally hacking into
Right.
somebody, even though your intention is to reveal the
Right.
weakness.
Because you're testing the system, basically,
Yeah.
right?
And sometimes the justification is because look, we've told these people they don't listen, so we kind of have to embarrass them so they make changes, right?
Right.
But it's still an illegal activity of hacking unless they approve and say, okay, please try and hack our system.
Right.
So with the Stuxnet virus, it took advantage of zero-day vulnerabilities in the system, right? In the cooling temperature, whatever system. And once that code for that virus went on the internet, coders around the world took it, dissected it, and modified it. And so like just like a real virus, it's mutated, right? So there could be a virus somewhere right now, a malware on the internet right now that has some of that Stuxnet in it, for instance. See, so just like a real virus, how it would mutate,
Yeah.
the same thing can
Same
happen.
thing
So that's
happens.
why it exponentially will get worse and worse at times, depending on what the threat is.
Right. Because sometimes I'm like, potentially, if the Iranian one actually went ahead, nuclear meltdown of the plant and everything, it could cost a lot of lives. So there are a lot of these threats that we don't even know about, but the attacks are happening constantly, and it actually would affect us, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
the list here says like banks have been attacked multiple times in Malaysia, and every time a system goes down, let's say a bank, let's say, oh, we apologize for this, or you're gonna experience some downtime or whatever on the app and everything. Is that a hack?
hard to say. Again, I I could say yes and it's not, and I could say no and it actually is, because one is nobody's gonna admit they got hacked unless it becomes public. That's number one,
Yeah,
right? Nobody's gonna admit, never. So I
especially a
think
bank, because people lose confidence in them, right?
exactly. I think, for instance, there was one with Sony, if I'm not mistaken, Sony PlayStation. So the PlayStation network got hacked, and only when some news agency kind of reported on it, then they kind of said, well, yeah, we did get hacked. But it wasn't like they got hacked that day and then it was immediately, oh, by the way, all our customers, please change your password. It was only when the media got a hold of the news, then it was like, oh yeah, by the way, please change your password now.
Right.
So people are not going to reveal because, again, it's all about trust. And if I can't trust you to keep my information, I'm just going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
And then sometimes when you talk about like, when organizations or banks or websites get hacked, the hack doesn't have to necessarily mean that somebody was trying to take something out of that company, right, without permission. It could be that, for instance, when you talk about DDoS attack, right, denial of service attack, that's where using malwares or zombie bots, it's so cool when you talk about it,
zombie bots.
So what happens is, okay, I'm a zombie master, right, or a bot master or malware master. And what I do is I infect as many computers as I can with my malware. So now I have 1 million computers around the world with my malware. When I press enter, all these 1 million computers are going to attack the same server that I want it to, right? Now, let's say the Bank of JD has enough servers to cater for 500,000 people at a time. So then when you get 1 million people trying to get into that 500,000 access points, it jams up, traffic jam. That's when the website basically overloads and like, oh, tutup kedai, we cannot handle the load. So that's like a denial of service.
Okay.
Right. So usually if a website goes down, most cases or some cases is where it's not about me trying to steal information. I just want to be a pain and interrupt your daily routine.
What do they
or your
get
daily
out
business. Of it? Kicks.
It's weird though, because I read about the Malaysian Armed Forces website also getting hacked recently, right? What was that for?
It's basically it's like typical, like like jantan behavior lah, where it's like I dare you to do this.
Not this kind of jantan behavior.
Not that kind of jantan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the naughty jantan.
Yeah, the naughty janta. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So naughty jantan behavior is where like, mine is bigger than yours. I'm taller than you. I'm faster than you. I can eat more burgers than you. I can do this better than you.
That's it. That's all they want.
So
Just
it
to show
happens
off.
sometimes, yeah. So it's like I hack and I just defame the website, for instance, and like
Yeah.
Aaron was here,
Yeah.
right? Or your system is not secure by, and then the nickname or whatever the
Yeah, I remember there was a
call is.
American. It was an official. I can't remember what it was, but it was an American website, and then the people logged on, and there were like boobs everywhere.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like I want to prove to my peers that I can hack the unhackable, right?
Right.
There is an aspect of that. But again, when you call it cracking or cybercrime is no joke too. Like for instance, when you talk about ransomware, there have been organizations.
Correct. Yeah.
There have been organizations who have basically their system got hacked, all their information got locked up, and the criminals were like, "Give us this information. Pay us, or we're gonna delete all your files."
Yeah.
Right? And this can be very devastating for an organization like a hospital or a bank, right? Because imagine if I have a patient coming in and I have no history of them visiting us for the last 10 years, so I don't know like if my medication is gonna
Correct.
have a negative effect because their record of any allergies is gone and stuff like this. So that's the problem. The ironic part of ransomware is that the easiest way of overcoming it is just backing up your information regularly.
Yeah.
You get locked out and somebody says, "Give me money or I delete all your files." Okay, delete all my files. They delete it and you just back up. That's it, done.
Will they use the information though? That's the scary part though, right?
Then that becomes another part of, okay, now they can't get money from you, right? What are they going to do with it? Are they just going to cut the losses and say, you know what, it's not worth it? Or is there more intent where, you know what, this information I can sell? And there is a black market for all this information, right?
Yeah.
So like there used to be, I don't have the chart with me now, but there used to be like prices for credit card numbers, for social security numbers, name. So if you have somebody's like full name, IC number, handphone number, bank account number, and home address, that would cost more than if you just had their full name, for instance.
Right. And like, how do you know? Like, dude. So it's a chicken and egg story in my head that I think might happen. Right. So somebody goes on the dark web and looks for job opportunities. Let's say we're offering this amount of money for someone to hack into a system and then whatever you get, you sell the information to us. Is that how it works? Someone goes into the dark web?
Well, I mean, you make it sound like I can just Google dark web and find it, right?
Yeah.
It's not okay. When you talk about the dark web, it's basically things that are not listed on a search engine. That's kind of like what the dark web is. I mean, that's the most simplistic way of saying it. So if you Google it, you're not going to find it, right? You actually have to have like a specific URL that you type in.
And a very specific browser as well in some cases,
or a
right?
specific browser in some cases, just to get to the door and ring the bell, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And but once you're in, it's basically like that. There could be a forum saying that I need this done. I'm looking for somebody to do it for me. This is how much I'll pay you in Bitcoin. That's it.
Right.
So it's just like what do you call it? That Fiverr website.
Yeah.
Just like that, but for hackers. Yeah.
But how often like in ransomware, if you really haven't backed up information and you pay these guys, generally, I mean, in reports that you've seen, do people actually get their information back?
Again, it goes back to what was the cyber criminal's intent, right?
Yeah.
If it's just somebody fooling around, they might go like, "Oh man, I can't believe I got the money," and then screw them and just delete everything, right?
Right.
If they're professional, they'll honor the deal because they don't want people to be like, well, if I pay them, they're still gonna delete it anyway, so might as well not pay. See?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
So they'll be like, here you
want
go.
Repeatable business.
Repeat customers. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
It's there's different levels. I mean, again, Hollywood makes it look like it's always like a teenager or some super hacker and stuff, but it could just be people who do it as a hobby. They could be people who do it for research purposes. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, cars have been hacked. There's a video you can find on YouTube where somebody has like a self-driving car and the guy just said, "Okay, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, press the button," and basically he lost control of the car.
Oh my God.
Right? And he started driving himself. So imagine if that can be done to an aeroplane. for instance.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking
Right.
about that. Yeah.
If you look at the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, right? Basically, what won the war for Azerbaijan was drones.
Right.
Because I mean, what happened in Azerbaijan and Armenia, even though it was not a big kind of conflict, the repercussions of how that turned out is going to impact warfare moving forward.
Yeah, because when I read about that, I'm like, holy shit, how Terminator can you get?
Exactly right. It is scary in terms of how impersonal warfare is going to be.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, and that's why you hear stories about like the U.S. Army is recruiting candidates through e-sport activities
Yeah.
and stuff like that, right? Because
Right.
they just need drone pilots to be on a container somewhere in America, flying drones on the other side of the world, right? And
So
yeah,
how good was Counter-Strike, Command and Conquer? If you were really good, come on and join us. Come and join the U.S. Army. Now, let's talk a bit about something that got a lot of people in a huff recently. And it was all over social media. It was in the news. People like leaving WhatsApp in droves because they said, oh, suddenly everybody was really concerned about my privacy is at stake. Yet they'll openly show everything of their lives on Facebook and everything. What was the whole WhatsApp thing about recently? Why did everybody suddenly jump to Signal and Telegram? Because before that, I've never even freaking heard of Signal.
Yep. Okay. The easiest way of saying it is, okay, WhatsApp used to be independent. They used to be their own company, right?
Correct.
And then Facebook spent a few billion
Bought it over. Yeah.
of pocket change to buy it, right?
Yeah.
And the CEO of WhatsApp at the time said that, don't worry, things are going to be very clear, separated. There's not going to be any problems with your data or information, and everybody was fine. But then slowly, I started hearing from people like they talk to somebody on WhatsApp, and then on Facebook will recommend that person as a friend. And they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, I just talked to this person and now he's recommended. Like, what's going on? So something was going on behind the scenes. And then this new policy came up and basically just said that, we're going to be doing more stuff with your information and sharing it with more people. So, I mean, if I look at, if you have an iPhone, right? When you look at the App Store and you select an app, it actually has a section called App Privacy, right? So just to give you an example of what WhatsApp, right? So the following data may be collected and linked to your identity. What is it? Your purchases. So that means WhatsApp will know what you buy through your phone, right? Your location, your contacts, identifiers like, personal information, diagnostics. So like, what system you're using, what processors on your phone, what type of phone, financial info. So any, let's say, credit card information that you store on apps for like PayWave and stuff like that, they'll have access to. Contact info, your personal contact information, like contacts was like your contacts, everybody else user content. So every time you take a picture, take a video, they'll have access to that. And usage data. So they'll even know like what website you go to, how long you're there. If I go to Signal, under privacy, the following data may be collected, but it's not linked to your identity. Contact info. That's it.
Right.
And the thing with this, the only problem with Signal is they have to have a record of your mobile number to link the account to your mobile number, but everything else is encrypted.
Right.
So the problem with WhatsApp is it's connected to an organization that makes money from selling your information to advertisers.
Right.
So in no way is that going to be of any benefit to you, because the whole system, again, any app, software platform that you use that you don't pay, you are not the customer.
Yeah.
Right? You're the information that they want to collect to give to the customer.
Yeah, you're being data mined. You're just they're
just mining your data, right? The real customer, where Facebook makes their money, is advertisers. And so the whole point is to collect information and keep people on the platform so they can collect more information, sell it to the advertisers, and tell them, look, we know so much about Aaron that if you post that you're selling this car at this price, at this color, at this time, guarantee 90% is going to buy it.
Yeah.
And that's what advertisers want, right? So the problem with WhatsApp is that now they've kind of backpedaled on what they said they won't do. And the way they did it basically is a PR nightmare lah. They did it in such a way where it sounded like 10 times worse than it actually is.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
it is
exactly.
worse.
Yeah.
It is worse. I mean, it
Yeah.
is bad. But the way it was done makes it like 10 times worse. And then Telegram and Signal just jumped on, the whole bandwagon and said that, look, we're not this. And the reason being is that Telegram doesn't have a huge social network behind them.
Yeah.
They have they say they use less of your information, and there is encryption in terms of the information. But again, if I'm not mistaken, Telegram is a Russian company.
Right.
So it goes back to how much you trust the Russians and your information.
Vladimir Putin knows all about you. Yeah.
There have been cases where, this is very good software. And it's like, yeah, it's government software, KGB, all good.
Right. Wasn't that the one where, remember the photo app thing where you could make yourself look older and everything? Then people said, actually, they're mining your picture.
Photo recognition. Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And with Signal, what's appealing about Signal is they're a non-profit.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, they're a non-profit. So they don't have an agenda or requirement to sell your information. There's no like, we need money by selling something.
So how do they make, how are they surviving?
Charity is a non-profit. So, they get charity donations, they get funding from freedom rights organizations and foundations and grants and stuff like that. So that's how, I think their whole team is about 30 people. Wow. If I'm not mistaken. So their team is about a team of 30.
I don't know how the 30 people are going to handle a sudden surge of user demand. Suddenly it's like, why is everybody coming on to Signal for some reason, right?
Okay, and the interesting thing that just happened to Signal recently is that Signal's employees are saying that Signal has to do more about controlling who says what on Signal.
Right.
And people are like, excuse me, you pride yourself in encrypting everything. Yeah. The only way you're going to figure out what people are saying is if you
listening into what we're doing.
Into a conversation. How's that going to work? So, because again, I know it might not be appropriate to tie it all together, but this goes back to the current social justice trend that's going on in the world, right? So when Signal was used by anti-Trump activists, it was fine. Yeah. Nobody likes Trump. So, shops were getting burnt in Baltimore, people getting robbed, houses getting broken into. It's all good because it's anti-Trump. And then suddenly when they find out that, Signal was used by people to storm the Capitol, then suddenly it's like, okay, the right also uses Signal.
Right.
Now suddenly the staff at Signal like, well, maybe, we should have some kind of control.
Yeah.
So this is the problem and I was just listening to a podcast where they were saying that tech companies should not get involved in politics, should not get involved in the Constitution of America, right?
Right.
Stay neutral. But the thing is, you've seen that Twitter basically blocked Trump.
Yeah.
Amazon removed Parler from their hosting cloud. Again, so it's whoever's in charge, whoever holds the data. People don't understand how powerful Mark Zuckerberg is, right? He can basically manipulate wars and
exactly. He's
between countries if he wanted to. He wanted to. Not saying that he will, but he has that much power where he can just change public perception in one direction. So I'm always proactively, positively paranoid. So what that means is if all the media is telling me to look left, I'll be like, maybe I should glance to the right a bit.
Yeah.
And the other way around.
See what else they're saying, right?
Yeah. So when everybody says like Trump is bad, I'll be like, why is everybody agreeing that Trump is bad?
Yeah.
Right? When everybody says, Biden is really good, I'll be like, why is everybody saying Biden is good? And again, I mean, in Malaysia, alhamdulillah, we don't have the Republicans and the Democrats, but this is again something that will translate to the situation here also, right?
Yeah.
You have to be careful with how media is portrayed.
So now with WhatsApp, with how the messaging service is going, basically everybody at some point they're looking into our messages, and at some point probably they're looking to hopefully sell our data. So which one do we use?
Okay, actually, in most terms of service of any app that you use, right, the language is in such a way where it's basically legal talk to say that you can't sue us no matter what. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean that companies gonna do what they say they can do, right? Like I think when Google Drive changed their policy,
Yeah.
the way they said it was like they can basically do anything they wanted with our information. But immediately after that, they said, but we're not going to. See, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
But we
well,
want you to give us the permission to.
if we have to, or if we do and you catch us, the terms of service say that you allowed us. See,
Yeah, yeah.
so I mean, nobody reads the terms of service. I
Actually, that's
mean,
true. Like when I sign up for stuff, it's like, oh god, dude, really? The terms and conditions are so freaking long. Just click on the little box so that you
yeah,
can proceed to the next step, right?
and the
So
fonts get smaller and smaller.
exactly, exactly.
So, so, and the thing with WhatsApp is the reason it became quite popular is because one is the number one messaging app around the world.
Mm.
Secondly, that message basically came up on your screen and didn't give you a choice.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't like we've changed our terms of service. If you want to read it, click this button. It was kind of like popped right in front of you and said agree or not agree,
Yeah.
which is why it got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Again, who to choose? It's I don't know, man. When you talk about anything on the internet, if you're not hosting it yourself, there's never any guarantee.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. But that's life in general, isn't it? You're gonna put your life in someone else's hands, information in someone else's hands. But because I use a lot of WeChat as well, because I've got friends in Hong Kong and I've got friends
Yeah.
in China, and I love how you use WeChat for everything when you're in China to
Yep.
pay for this, to pay for that. You book for a seat in a one-time mean stall, even, which is brilliant. But that also is giving away control to something. That means you're giving all the information to them as well. So WhatsApp, WeChat, Signal is a bit clunky. Telegram, I can play games and stuff, sure, but I don't even know what's the right one to use right now.
Don't even. I mean, you don't even have to look at communication apps, right? Just look at the My Sejahtera app as an example, right?
Yeah.
So from what I've been told, that the company is not even in Malaysia.
Really?
The company is based in America,
Okay.
and whether the servers are also there, I'm not sure. So this was an issue with a lot of local cyber safety advocates. They were like, "What the hell, man? You know, why are you giving it to?" I think the chairman or the CEO might be a Malay guy or
Right.
Malaysian guy. I don't know if Malay, Chinese, whatever, but a Malaysian. But the rest of the company are basically based in America, right?
It's Master Jatra.
Mike Jacker. So think about it, right? At this point in time, everywhere you go, you're checking into something.
Yeah.
So whoever has this information has basically for the last 6 months has a record of your movement habits.
Tracking you, yeah.
What's your favorite shop,
Yeah.
right? If I know that all the shops you visit are in a 10-kilometer radius, then I know you must live in that 10-kilometer radius, for instance.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, we have to be aware. That's the most important thing, because every app out there, like it or not, for whatever reason, again, another example, Muslim community, big uproar because a Muslim Pro, if I'm not mistaken, Muslim Pro was like the number one Islamic app for knowing when the call to prayer is,
Yeah, I
reading
use
the Quran,
I use that. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And suddenly it was who was it? It was that news company in the States. What are they called? Forgot.
Reuters?
Vice.
Vice, yeah, yeah.
Vice came out with a report that said that Muslim Pro's user information was sold to the US what do you call it? Defense Intelligence Department.
Oh shit.
Right? So, of course, Muslim Pro says, no, we don't do this, right? And then they said, so what happens is, and this is a app developer friend. So he tells me that if an app is popular, somebody will come to you and say, look, dude, I'll give you 50K if you let me put this line of code in your app to collect certain information. Right? So if you're a small developer but you have a big base, 50K is a lot. And you might go like, yeah, sure, 50K, put that line of code, and you'll get a bit of information. And then they don't realize that company will actually then sell that information to advertisers, or in this case, what made it a very high profile incident, to the US military service. So everybody's like, what the hell, man? What's going on? So same thing. Everybody was like paranoid. Everybody started deleting Muslim Pro. I haven't used it since. I'm currently using the Noor, which is Nilofar's app.
Oh, right.
She just launched it. So I mean, I'm using it, and I was skeptical at first because
How do you know
like,
that she's not selling your information to someone?
exactly, you know. So I was like, well, again, I'm using an iPhone, so at the App Store, you actually see what information the app will be accessing.
Actually, you mentioned this a few times. So if you use an iPhone compared to using an Android, that means Android is not as safe.
Okay, how it works is that if I was to get a phone for my mom, I'd get her an iPhone. Why?
Really?
Because an iPhone is the closest thing to a Nokia phone. You know what I mean? In that context, like
Right.
like like 10, 20 years ago, if I was to buy my mom a phone, I wouldn't buy her
Alcatel.
an Alcatel or a Zeman
Yeah.
or a Sony Ericsson. I'd get her a Nokia
Right.
because that thing is basically idiot proof. I'm not saying that my mom's an idiot, but it's
Correct.
like, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
takes a lot of damage and it's straightforward. This button to call, this button to dial is
Yeah.
basically like a phone without a wire.
Yeah, yeah.
So in the world of handphones, iPhone is kind of like that in the sense of where iPhone is very particular about who is allowed into their garden,
Right.
right? So their app policies are stricter. If you want to make any payment, they have to get a cut. And there was issues a few months ago with, you know, people are saying that 30% or 40% is too much.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Apple is charging people, they have to pay for the app, and then now every time they charge, they get access. So all these things going on. But again, that's what Apple does. It's their right to do it. And because of that, apps have to follow a stringent, more controlled environment, right?
Correct.
Now, when you go to Android, Android is more liberal, more open, right?
Yeah.
You can, it's easier to get on the Play Store.
Yeah, you
right?
get and you get an APK like, oh, it comes from an unknown source. Install
care.
anyway? Sure, why not, right?
There's more free software.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned before, if something is free, you're not the customer,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But the problem with Android is majority of the world uses Android. So number one, if I'm a criminal and I'm creating a virus or a malware to attack a phone, am I going to attack 40% who use iPhone or the 60% who use Android?
Right.
Which is the best use of my time?
Right.
Right? So it's the same as Windows versus Mac, right?
Right.
Windows are more vulnerable because there are more viruses, but it doesn't mean a Mac is more secure. It's just that there's less threats.
Right. Right.
Research has proven that in the past, when a Mac is infected by a virus, it actually spreads more because most Mac users are ignorant about viruses and installing antivirus. So, you know, it goes havoc there. So again, it's this kind of crazy kind of juggling act of who's safer, but because they're popular, they're not so safe. But because they have so much money, they can make it harder for people to do what they want with the app, but the users have. So again, it's like at the end of the day, somebody's benefiting, and worst case scenario is we in the losing side of it, lah.
Yeah. So minimize the threat, I suppose. So
Exactly, it's all about minimizing your digital footprint. That's what they say.
right.
How do I minimize the amount of information that I have to share to use the internet the way I want to use it? An example would be, for instance, when it comes to using cloud storage, right? There's Google Drive, there's Dropbox. I think when Microsoft has their OneDrive,
Yeah.
Samsung probably has their version.
Apple has
Apple
exactly.
has Apple iCloud, right?
Yeah.
So now I might think if I use all 5 of these and each one gives me 5 gigabytes, I can have 15 gigabytes for free.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, 25.
25, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm on the social side, not the hacker side. So right, so I'm thinking, oh yeah, you know, so just using the bare minimum for free, I can get 25 gigabytes. But now what happens is you've opened up yourself to 5 potential ways that somebody can get your information.
Yeah.
And when your information is stolen from one of them, if nobody admits it, you're always going to be like, uh-oh, who was the person who leaked, or, you know, whose information was revealed to. The same with credit cards, right? So if I go shopping to 10 different stores in one day using the same credit card, and then suddenly my credit card data got stolen, I have to think like, okay, who out of these 10 people or these 10 shops had a vulnerability that caused my credit card information? A solution, for instance, could be using PayPal, right?
Okay. Really? Okay.
Yeah. So what happens, because I attach my credit card to my PayPal, I pay with my PayPal. Even if I go to 100 stores, the only information these stores are getting are my PayPal information, not my credit card information.
How many shops let you do that here in Malaysia, though?
Oh yeah, well that's another thing. So this would be more specific to online shopping,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If you talk about security, even though it's not a popular thing to say to normal to people, because again, as a Muslim, we don't believe in credit cards, right? But actually, from a security perspective, it's safer to use a credit card than a debit card.
right.
Reason being, with a credit card, if anything happens, I can make a report. The bank holds the money. I never really spent it, and it's the bank will clear me, so I don't get affected at all.
Yeah.
When it's a debit card and something gets taken out, that's like actual money being taken out. The bank's not going to say, okay, here you go, here's money to replace the money that was taken. It's kind of like, no, sorry, your fault. You willfully gave it away.
Yeah.
It's not our fault that you were unaware that it was a risky transaction.
Yeah.
So there are small steps that you can take, and they might not seem major, but they do count and add up.
So is that what this anonymous Malaysia is trying to do, like to tell us that we've got a lot of vulnerabilities? Because they recently had a video out to say that, hey, that you haven't been taking your data security seriously. We're gonna attack you and stuff like this. What is there really an anonymous Malaysia, or is it just a bunch of guys sitting around the stalls in Digital Mall?
In Digital Mall, that's where they all hang out.
I don't know. I'm assuming they do, right? Right next to the guy that's fixing all
the
my
dark
phones.
web of Malaysia. Okay, the thing is, you can't take them seriously to the point where you're paralyzed by it, right? So like, oh no, I can't use the internet, or I'm never gonna log into the internet, or I'm in trouble, so I'm just gonna steal my information. So if it gets to a point where it paralyzes you, that's wrong. But at the same time, to go, you know what, these hackers are nobody, they're not gonna do anything about it, that they're just all talk. Saying that, it will actually trigger them more. So from again, I don't know if it's true or not. From let's say if it was just kind of like hot air, now that you've kind of dared them, now they'll actually reach out and call real hackers to kind of, guys, they made fun of us and said that nobody can hack us. And that's the worst thing you can say to the infosec industry, where you tell them we are unhackable.
Right.
You're just asking for trouble,
Right. Don't dare them to.
Don't dare them to, right? So when I think Ashraf Wani did an interview about this, and they asked, and I said, you can't let it handicap you to the point where you are in paralysis and don't dare do anything. But at the same time, if you're just gonna go, you know what, it's all just hot air, it's all talk, and we're not gonna do anything, it's also bad. So what you can do is, when a threat like this happens, is, okay, a threat has happened, let's just do a quick look around and check that everything is secure. Are we up to date? Are we all up to date with the latest threats? Are all our systems locked up, software updated, firmware updated? Are we ready for anything that happens? Do we have cybersecurity's hotline ready, or MCMC? That is the right way to kind of react to that kind of threat. Because again, there's no guarantee whether it's one way or the other true or not.
Because Anonymous Malaysia said that they're going to be attacking government websites, which is very disturbing. So what do you mean by government websites? Is it tax? Is it my driver? The DMV? You know what I mean?
I mean, the Persatuan Wanita Kampung somewhere in Kelantan could be considered a government website. Right? So again, I'm not trying to belittle the threat, but every municipal council has a website. So they might get hacked if they don't have the proper security in place. In terms of that, what Anonymous can do, it could be denial of service, right? So they could just overwhelm a server and shut down the website. That's one way they could do. They could defame. So like you mentioned, they could put rude words or pictures on the landing page.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is they hack and prove that they hacked by showing sensitive information. And super worst case scenario is they hack and it has a real world effect.
That's the one that I'm most worried about, because when it affects me, the
Only when it
regular
affects you.
Joe, What?
Only when it affects you is is concerning.
I'm concerned because what happens? Am I gonna not be able to renew my driver's license or this? You know what I mean? Because that's that's me representing a lot of people who are just not. We don't know enough about computers or hackers and stuff like this. Like, how does that affect me personally? You know what I mean?
The more the more you rely on the internet, the more you have to be aware of. There's always going to be that risk, right? I
Mm,
mean, um, now you have the Internet of Things, right?
yeah,
Which basically means that any gadget in your home could be connected to the internet. So imagine if in the future you could buy a fridge and it's a smart fridge.
yeah.
And what the smart fridge does is it keeps track of what you buy, and it'll tell you that, oh, you're running out of eggs, better go buy, or your milk was bought on this date and is due to expire tomorrow, for instance, right? That's the good thing that comes out of smart devices. Now the problem is once a device is smart, that means they are connected to the internet, for instance,
Yeah.
which means that now a criminal, cyber hacker, or whoever doesn't only have the opportunity to hack your laptop or your phone, now they can hack your fridge, right?
That sounds very strange.
I know it does, right? But
Right.
now, through hacking your fridge, they have access to your Wi-Fi network,
Yeah.
and through having access to your Wi-Fi network, they have access to your other devices, for instance.
Right.
See, so this is where the problem is.
Because I think a lot of
Or
people think they're gonna hack my fridge. So what are they gonna steal my cucumber? You know what?
okay, this is what could happen. They hack your fridge, and every night between midnight and 6 p.m., they lower the temperature, right?
Ah, right.
So, but when you wake up at 7, the temperature still feels cold. And suddenly you realize, why is my food always bussy twice as fast as it used to be?
Right, right, right.
So, and now the risk is that you eat yogurt and you're thinking, oh, expiry date is 2 weeks away, unknowingly that every night it's not being kept refrigerated
And you get
and it's
sick.
already expired and you get food poisoning.
Right, right, right.
So now that has an actual effect on you physically.
That's true.
Again,
Wow.
it's very like Black Mirror kind of thing, but
Yeah.
that's the reality of it, right? It's where people can hack devices. And what happens if like criminals use multiple fridges all connected through a network, right? Because again, if let's say I'm Samsung and I come up with a smart fridge, right? I might say that, oh, I want to know how people use their fridges so I can make better fridges. So
Right. Yeah.
whether I do it clandestinely, is that the proper way of saying it?
Clandestine. Yeah, we'll use
It's
that. Yes.
clandestinely, yes.
Yeah.
So whether they do it hush hush
Right.
and are kind of keeping track of how people use their fridge, like for instance, if I can, if the fridge reports back to Samsung the different temperature fluctuation, you can kind of guess how many times people open and close the fridge door,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And at what time they open and close the fridge, you kind of can identify what day of the fridge people are hungry or not, for
Yeah.
instance. So now Samsung's collecting all this information to make a better product for you,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, now all these fridges are connected to the Samsung network,
Right.
right? So now can somebody hack one fridge and then it affects all the other fridges because they're all on the same network? It can sound far-fetched, but that's why I always say you need a bit of positive paranoia, right? Which is be aware that these things, as unlikely as they may be, can happen, but don't get to the point where it paralyzes you and affects how you run your daily life.
I'm never gonna look at a fridge the same way ever again. I'm like, are you out to get me? You know?
I mean, I know, yeah. I mean, people be like, "What fridge?" I mean, the last of your worries is a fridge, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I have enough trouble with my phone and my iPad and my laptop and my computer, and now you're telling me I have to worry about a fridge,
I have to update the firmware on my fridge.
right?
That's
And then suddenly it's like, what happens when fridges have biometric scanners on them? Because, oh, I don't want my kids snacking at night. So this fridge will protect you from those little naughty munchkin kids who sneak up in the middle of the night and eat the
yeah.
junk food, right? And then suddenly when that biometric scanner rolls out, you can't even open your own fridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are like first world problems.
Yeah. Yeah. But I get what you mean. I mean, like, it's designed for your convenience, for your safety, for your because we live in a high tech world now,
Yep.
but it can be used against us. But how do you protect yourself from things like this?
Okay, there's no 100% solution, right? Because number one, anything man-made, man is not perfect. Thus, anything man-made is most certainly not perfect too. So no system is ever going to be 100% secure. because just by putting a label of we are 100% secure, like I said, it's kind of like a trigger, kind of like, oh, you're daring us, are you?
Right.
And people are just going to dedicate their lives until they can hack your system, right? So that's one thing. So it's not a matter of if you're going to get hacked or if you're going to be a victim of a cybercrime. Get it in your head that it's an issue of not if, but when are you going to be a victim of a cybercrime. Secondly, now, if you know you're going to be a victim of a cybercrime, how do you minimize your risk, or how do you minimize the effect of if you do get hacked, right? So we talked about how the easiest way to mitigate a ransomware attack is by regularly backing up your data. So that if you do get a ransomware, no problem, the delete file, format computer, upload data, you're back to normal, right?
Right.
And things like, for instance, secure passwords. Don't just use passwords that have numbers. Don't use passwords that have your personal information. Like a lot of these celebrities whose iCloud got hacked is because, forget password. What was the name of your mother? What was the name of your first pet? What was the name of your uncle, sister's cousin?
Yeah.
Right? And all of that is on social media right now.
Yeah.
So people, again, they'll go to social media, get all this information to be able to answer all those questions. And these platforms are going to be like, well, he answered all the questions, right? He must be that person.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have, what's her name? The Hunger Girl game actress, punya body parts all over the
exactly.
internet.
Yeah.
Right? Secondly is, if you know things are going to be vulnerable, then do not take the chance of putting things that you don't want people to get their hands on. So this goes back to, private time is private time. You don't have to record, video capture, video record your private times.
Yeah.
Whether by yourself or with a loved one, right? Keep it personal, keep it offline, because a lot of it, what happens is people are like a big epidemic that's happening amongst teenagers is revenge porn, right?
Right.
And revenge porn is where when they're couples, they take video, they take pictures, and then when they break up, one or the other will be like, hey, if you don't get back with me, I'm going to reveal all these pictures, I'm going to reveal all these photos, or if you don't give me money, the love is gone, so now it's all just about giving money or whatever. And sometimes it's not even going to affect you now. They'll wait until you're hired as the next CEO of a company, or you just got promoted, or you've been elected as a politician. Suddenly that's when the thing comes out.
Right.
So because the internet has a long memory, and it's something that's happening now where people are getting canceled for something they said when they were 11 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
I
mean, again, I'm blessed to be at my age, because at 11 years old, I'm happy that there was no platform that all the stupid stuff I said was online and recorded, right? But the reality is, for a lot of kids, again, it's not like our parents were angels, right? I mean,
it just wasn't recorded.
For a lot of people in their late 30s, early 40s, your parents went through the 70s, and come on, man, right?
Correct.
The amount of crazy stuff that went on in the 70s, is way crazier than what
it just wasn't on tape, man.
It just wasn't on tape. It just wasn't recorded. It just wasn't on video. That's all.
Yeah.
You ask your dad, hey, dad, did you do this? All I can say is, daddy lagi banyak makan garam. That's like code word for I did a lot of bad stuff and I'm not telling you,
Yeah.
So it's not like people are getting worse. It's just that now there are things in place where everything is easily recorded, everything is easily stored.
You can't get away from it.
You press the wrong button, you send the message to the wrong person. I've been in WhatsApp groups where family member WhatsApp groups where something was said about me, thinking that message was sent directly to another family member.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you excuse that? So I told my wife, look, sayang, is like, let's just keep you as the gatekeeper for any communications with your side of the family, and I'll just leave your family group. Make it simpler. Because humanity is not made to be so interconnected and intertwined with each other 24/7.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's unhealthy to be in a chat group of your direct family members, a chat group of all your aunties and uncles, a chat group of all your cousins, a chat group of only your male cousins, a chat group of only your female cousins. You have an office group for everybody. You have the office group for everybody except the boss. You have the office group for everybody except the one person you don't like. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's just trouble waiting to happen.
Talking about trouble, if it does find you, let's say something happens and you get hacked or whatever it is.
What
Who do we
something are we
call?
talking about, JD? Do you want to share something, JD? Something you want to get off your chest, JD?
No, I'm just concerned. Things might happen. So who do we call? Do we call the cops? Do we call?
Okay. A teacher once asked me for advice because she said that a student from high school went to university. When they were in university, they got into a relationship. Again, when they were together in that relationship, pictures and videos were taken. At the end of the degree course, she decided to break up because she wanted to move on. He didn't want to move on. And now he's threatening her with the photos, right?
Right.
And I told her, there's nothing you can do.
Wow.
I mean, what can you do, right?
Yeah.
If you give in to that person, there's no guarantee the file they give you or the file that they delete is the only file there is.
Correct.
What happens if that person keeps a photo or a video on their phone as a memento, and a friend of theirs borrows their phone or their phone gets stolen, and then suddenly it gets out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
When I've talked to a police representative about this in terms of like blackmailing on the internet, like love scams where usually with women the love scams are like, oh, I love you, here's a present, I send you a present but you have to pay the tax for it, or like my business is in trouble, can you pay me money?
Right.
But with the guys it's usually sexual related, so like chatting with somebody and then as soon as you take off your clothes it's like, gotcha, all right, now give us money, or your Skype call just now that has been recorded will be given to your wife. And what the policeman told me that if that happens, just make a police report because there's nothing you can do about it. There's no guarantee that they're going to stop doing what they're doing, right? There's no guarantee that when you pay them, they're going to stop. So the policeman just say, make a police report, ignore them. There's nothing else you can do. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen one love scam where we tried it out at Cybersecurity Malaysia for fun.
What do you mean tried it out?
Not tried it on a person, but showed how it could be done, where basically we edited a video of a girl, right?
Right.
And how we did it was that we looked at, now I remember, it wasn't us editing the video. We were looking at an actual recording of a scam. Right? So in the scam, this guy was talking to this really beautiful Thai girl, right?
Okay.
But if you really pay attention to the conversation and the audio, when the message was being typed in the chat, both her hands were touching her hair, right?
Okay.
So basically, it was a pre-recorded video.
Yeah, because if she's touching her hair, how can she type?
Right. So it was a pre-recorded video. Somebody is just kind of like putting it on the Skype, and you could actually be talking to a guy.
Right.
And he's just typing in like, oh, you do this, and then I do this, and I'm going to take off my this right now. You do it too. But once in a while, the person would fumble, and you can see like the timing is off in terms of where their hands are.
Right.
When they're typing, so it's like, wow, this person must be really dexterous or has like an extra hand somewhere, right? So again, with men it's usually sexual, with women it's very emotional.
Right.
But same thing, people get scammed, and you have doctors and lawyers and engineers, not just like makcik yang tak tahu anything that gets hacked.
Yeah.
And I talked to this person who was a victim, and she said that it got to a point where she knew she was being scammed, but she was so far in that she just couldn't admit that it was a scam.
Right.
So, it was like 1,000 here, 5,000 there. When it got to 30K, a part of her didn't want to admit. I mean, she knew there was something wrong.
Yeah.
But she couldn't accept the fact that she had been conned out of 30K.
Right.
And so she just kept on going on with it, until like family members had to intervene and tell her, look, women, stop.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the human side of it and the technology side. They don't always mix and match well. And people who are unaware or ignorant and choose to remain ignorant are always going to have trouble.
So what's your advice for us to just be safe online?
Minimize your digital footprint. What that means is, if you have a phone, don't download every single app that you're recommended or that somebody recommends to you, right? If you're going to use WhatsApp and you decide to use WhatsApp, then use WhatsApp. Don't have WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal, because again, you're just spreading the platforms that have your information. Things like if you don't need to use your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth, have it off on your phone. These are little things that if you can make a habit, it might not make a big difference, but it does make a difference, no matter how small it might be.
Right.
Things like technically it could be like changing the name of your Wi-Fi hotspot, right?
Right.
Having a Unify Wi-Fi hotspot name that says Unify Aaron is just identifying your name to the neighborhood,
Right.
right? So somebody can just come up to your door and oh, hi, Aaron, right? Oh no, that's the house next door. And you're
Right.
like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Right.
Then he goes to the house. Hi, Aaron. Yeah, I was talking to your neighbor. And so again, these are small information that can be revealed. When you take pictures and do videos, right? I mean, what's in the background? What information are you revealing to people that they may be able to use against you, right?
Right.
For instance, if you take a picture in front of a car.
I'm looking around. What do I have in the background? Okay. Okay. I think I'm okay. Just plants.
Yeah, I wish I could say that I'm using this fake back wallpaper for security reasons, but in actual fact, just my room's a mess. Because my work office is kind of like a family storeroom.
Right. Right.
So I have boxes and crates and all.
Yeah,
So,
dude. We all have that now. Work from home and everything, right? Yeah.
and again, yeah, working from home. So now you're more online. So now you're bringing your work home. So who are you dealing with at work? The people you talk to. From a personal, like non-technical side, it's like be clear about certain terms and definitions in your life, right? Like knowing the difference between acquaintance and friend is a big deal.
Yep.
I mean, imagine this, and this is an example that I used to give, and I thought about it because I experienced it in terms of having my I have 5 kids, so when my youngest was small, we went to a pasar,
Right.
right? And I bumped into somebody that I met at a conference or something, and they're like, "Oh, you're in this area?" And like, yeah. So we talked for about a minute, and then we walk off. And then my kid, who's 4 or 5, was like, "Oh, Daddy, is that your friend?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's Daddy's friend." I take a few steps, and I realize, wait a minute, if I say that that's my friend, what happens if, God forbid, we get separated?
Yeah.
She sees this person, oh, that's Daddy's friend. Friend means I can trust that person.
Yep.
And that person takes advantage of my daughter.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that person.
Yeah.
But because my daughter was like, who's that?
That's Daddy's friend.
Daddy's friend.
Yeah.
And I had to catch myself and say, oh no, that's Daddy's acquaintance. And she was like, what's acquaintance? I said, okay. So I had to explain it to a 4-year-old, right? So I just said, okay, Daddy's friend is somebody that if Daddy's not around, you can still talk to them. But Daddy's acquaintance, if Daddy's not around, you can't talk to them. Because I had to kind of simplify it.
You can't get into the details. Well, the thing is, it's only when you're on a first name basis, you can't explain that to a kid.
Exactly, right?
Right.
And I just remember one time when I was in college, I was on my way out the door at night, and my dad was like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm meeting a few friends." And my dad was like, "Friends or acquaintances?" I'm like, "What's this old man talking about?
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference? Like, you can have many acquaintances, but only few friends. What is this guy talking about? You know?" And then later on, I realized that what my dad was trying to say is that, I mean, you bump into people at the Pasar Malam, and suddenly the next day they're friends on your Facebook.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're revealing your whole life to them.
Yeah.
And all you did was bump shoulders.
Yeah.
Right? And if you teach your children that everybody's a friend, what is the value of that word to them? Right? Now they don't have any significance to that word. So when they grow up and use social platforms that have the word like and friend, it's
everybody's a friend.
Everybody's a friend, right?
Yeah.
Now you have what? You have to have like a BFF now or something, right? You come up with new terms.
I think that should be friends, close friends, acquaintances on that's how it should be.
That's another thing. I was actually going to come to that. The internet is not neutral, right? They claim that the internet is neutral. They claim that platforms can be neutral. But how can a social media platform be neutral when it takes only 1 click to add somebody, but it takes 3 to 4 clicks to delete them?
Yeah, man.
Okay?
My God.
So that's not neutral. How come it takes only 1 click to create a social media account, but to delete one, you have to wait 30 days without using it before it actually is deleted?
Yeah.
So
I've been trying, man. Yeah, you're right.
It's not neutral, right? So we have to be aware of these things where it's kind of like the cards are stacked against you, because as long as your data makes people money, people are going to try and get that data from you.
Yeah.
And they might do it nicely by giving you something that you appreciate and that you need. They might do it secretly, hush-hush, without you knowing. Or they might just hack and get it, right? So we have to be aware that there are risks. As long as you're aware and you take the necessary precautions in terms of educating your family members on the do's and the don'ts. Because I mean, how can you protect yourself against a problem that you don't even know exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to educate the people around you, like, hey, dude, you know, you want to use Facebook, but you do know that you should at least once in your life open the privacy settings and kind of look at who's actually seeing your information, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my sister used to complain, like, man, why don't you ever share pictures of your kids on Facebook with me? You know, because she was studying overseas, and I was like, I can't because, you know, privacy. Like, well, you don't trust your own sister. I'm like, it's not that I don't trust you, but I don't know your friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And everything's so connected that all it takes is for you to do one click, and suddenly you're sharing pictures of my kids,
Yeah.
right? A personal real life experience. My third daughter was born, and I left the hospital for an hour, and while I was at home, her picture was posted by an auntie on my wife's side in Singapore.
What?
And I was like, wait a minute, how did that happen? My kid's only been out 2 hours and she's already on the internet.
Yeah.
And what happened was my wife's older sister came by to visit her. While she was there, she took a picture and then she shared it with relatives. Like, hey, I mean, again, you want to share good news, of course.
Yeah.
But again, there was no kind of like, oh, please keep this picture private, or please don't share it outside the family. So then it gets to a family group with relatives from Singapore. They see it. And of course, nobody's going to ask, oh, can we share this picture? They're just going to be like, oh, this person shared a picture. Let's continue sharing it.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of like...
it's always good intentions. Oh, welcome to the world and stuff like this. But you're just opening up a can of worms there, right?
Right. Well, communism started with good intentions.
That's true. That's true. But dude, this was a great chat, man. I mean, like, there's just so much that's going on. It just kind of freaked us out. And with all the recent updates, that all these attacks and whatever, we just had to talk to you to find out the real story. But this obviously will not be the last time we're going to speak to you. There's always going to be something new. And then we're like, we got to talk to Aaron again, man. So, dude, thanks so much for giving us your time, buddy.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. And again, on this platform, it's kind of like a really proper long conversation. So that's always good. I just hope I wasn't all over the place just because it's such a big topic.
I'm all over it. It was great. I think we covered a lot, but there's still so much more to talk about. So we will see you again.
Looking forward to it, man.
Thank you once again, Aaron Mokhtar. Brilliant chat, very informative. We learned so much now. If you have any thoughts on that and you want to tell us about it, please do comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like us. Of course, this has been another edition of What's Up With That. My name is Jason Desmond from the Jantan Collective. Thank you for watching. And as usual, don't forget, don't be a dick.